Welcome to The Craft. I'm your host, May Globus. This podcast is a collection of intimate conversations on artistry, mastery, and life with talented, passionately curious creatives and entrepreneurs. Most are dear friends, some are those I've admired from afar. I hope you enjoy these conversations, this exploration of the humanity that connects all of us, as much as I do having them. Thank you for being here and for listening. Shawn Blishen is a bright soul. Her personality and smile light up any room. After working in fashion and retail and then healthcare, she turned a candle-making hobby into a full-fledged business, launching Kilig Candle Co. Her Filipino mother immigrated to Canada from Singapore in her early 30s after working there as a nanny. She applied to move to Vancouver and Los Angeles. The approval from Vancouver came first, giving her a new life in a new country. She met Shawn's dad at a dance, and 9 months later they were married, with Shawn coming later, an only child. She grew up in Surrey, where her friend group was mostly Caucasian and Indian. She had a massive shift in cultural pride during a Vegas trip, while joining her mom to watch the Miss Universe contest that year, where one of the finalists was Filipino. After stints working retail at Aritzia and in luxury retail in the UK, she came back to Vancouver and found herself in healthcare at St. Paul's Hospital and residential homes. A major car accident forced her to physically slow down, and she began making candles in the kitchen to stay busy. And soy and vegan-based Kilig Candle Co. came to be. In this conversation, we discuss her mother, grandmother, and uncle's immigrant story and her deep connection with each of them. The unconditional support her father gave her during the start of Kilig Candle Co., making deliveries together every Saturday. What the word Kilig means in Tagalog. What she loved about working in healthcare, and the consistent life lessons she learned when connecting with the elderly. Her relationship with her body and mental health after the car accident. The process of candle making and why people choose a certain brand in a saturated market. How sense of smell evolves throughout life. Founding the Girl Gang pop-up and exciting horizons for Kilig, and much more. Please enjoy the spirited conversation with the open and vibrant Shawn Blishen. Shawn Blishen, welcome to The Craft.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Me too. We actually met very recently.
Yes. At the pop-up at August Studios. Yes.
Which is also where I met Vince Garcia, who is our last guest.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, he really, really is.
And his chocolate's delicious. So.
Yes, I know. I just had the strawberry bar the other day.
I was just going to say that's my favorite.
Yeah.
He gave that to me once, and I was like, oh my gosh, the best.
Yes, like the flavors, I can't even believe it. But he's really great, and I was really happy to meet you. Actually, I didn't meet you at the pop-up. It's just coming to mind that when Eric Veloso, my friend who has Street Dreams magazine, had his office, you were across the hallway. That's when I first met you.
That's right. When you came in that time. Yeah.
Yes.
It's so funny because that's also my studio now too.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that room as well.
Yeah. Okay. I took over the whole downstairs of that building.
Oh, I see. Okay,
yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so happy to have you here and to listen to your story and who you are. So tell me a little bit about your family. Your mom was born in the Philippines.
Yeah, so my mom was born in the Philippines in Manawag. So she was there until she was about like late 20s. She kind of came from a, more impoverished family, I would say. Everyone worked really hard for what they had, and she really showed her strengths. I think her big thing was, always to be bigger and better and just give herself everything she could. And she definitely put herself first and showed a lot of motivation and decided that she wanted to be a nanny and then came to Canada. So she's definitely one of the people I really look up to.
And it was a really interesting journey that she had. She was in her late 20s, early 30s when she moved to Singapore, and she saved a ton of money, didn't she, to even have that opportunity?
Yeah. So she, like I said, she wanted a bigger and better life. So one of the things I think that really stood out to her was becoming a nanny and going to another country where she could work. So she worked for a family out there. They were so kind to her. She always tells me that's the family that taught her how to cook, and she's an amazing little chef. So I love them. But yeah, so she worked there, I think, for about a year, and she told me that it was a really hard struggle for her in the sense of, being alone, being in a new country by yourself for the first time, just not having any support really out there. But she was definitely one of the luckier nannies out there as well. Like, they treated her with respect. She got to have like that day off during the week and like hang out with the other nannies and go into town. And so when I hear her story, I hear her struggle, but I also am so grateful that she had a more positive experience that I know a lot of other people might not have had. Yeah.
And then she decided to move to North America and applied for 2 different states.
Yeah. So she decided that the next big thing would be for her to come to North America. So she heard a lot of positive things from the family that had her at the time as a nanny. And she decided, she's like, okay, I'm either going to go to Vancouver or I'm going to go to California. I don't care where it is. I'm just going to go to the first place that accepts me. And her family at the time, the employer that had her, they really wanted her to go to California because they also had family out there. So she was kind of leaning towards that as well. And then it just finally came to this pivotal moment where I was like, okay, Vancouver's here. And she's like, okay, I'm going to go, because she had saved all this money and it was just her opportunity for like that next bigger and better step. So she came to Canada. She was so excited. She like lived in this big house with other Filipino nannies. And I think that was very helpful for her, like, like struggling for so long being by herself, and then now getting to be with people of her own culture and just experiencing that. And she tells me it was a lot of fun. She still has friends from that group, which is awesome.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, they're like all Facebook friends and stuff, which is awesome. But she tells me like they used to like dance all the time and go to like Filipino parties together. So it was a good experience, and I'm happy like when she came to Canada, that got even bigger and better for her. Yeah.
And then after 9 months, she met your dad.
Yeah, so it's so crazy. So she went to one of these Filipino dances, and the story is my dad did not want to go to this dance. His best friend at the time was like, we gotta go, like my girlfriend's there, we gotta go. And my dad's like, fine, I'll go for like an hour. So he goes and he sees my mom on the dance floor, and he always jokes. He's like, she was shaking her bum. And he asked her to dance, and she said no straight away, because my mom's a very shy person straight off the bat. And so she said no, and then he was like, okay, I'm going to ask her one more time. So he asked her to dance one more time, and her friends kind of forced her into it. They were like, come on, just do it. Like, it's only one dance. And that was it. They fell in love, and he got her number and took her out, and then 9 months later they got married.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're still together.
That's a beautiful love story.
Yeah, I love it. I love telling that story because you don't always see that kind of strong love, I feel, and having them as like my parents, that's like, I don't know, it's just really motivational for me, like in many aspects of my life, to see my parents so in love and still together and just really be that power couple for me. So I love it. Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. Well, if we were going to dive deeper into, clearly your mom is strong and resilient. She loves to have fun. How else would you describe her, and how would you also describe your dad?
Oh, wow. So I feel like they're very yin and yang. So when you first meet my mom's like very quiet and she's more observant. But my dad is like this loud, outgoing, super nice, like big guy. Like even when you see them visually, it's like yin and yang. Like my dad, his background is his mom is Irish and his dad is English. So he's Caucasian. And then my mom's Filipino. And my dad's like over 6 feet and my mom's like 4 feet something. So it's like a big height difference even. But so I think from my dad's side, like he definitely gave me more of like the gift of the gab, like that business motivation. He like always told me, just follow your dreams, never give up, just keep going type of thing. And he's always been that shoulder, and like I feel so emotional talking about it, but like he's been so awesome just with everything. He, even with my business, he really helped me with everything.
That's really wonderful to have supportive parents.
Yeah. It's so funny because I never really share that with them, but without them, I don't think I could have done anything.
That's really great. Oh, that's so wonderful. I'm
Yeah.
really glad to hear that.
Yeah,
know,
like
and to
my-
feel that love.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I remember when I started my business, my dad was, my parents were kind of like, oh, we don't really know if like selling candles is, you know, something you could go into. And I was like, okay, like, let's just try it out. And my dad was like so motivated to help me that in my first year of business, we did local deliveries every Saturday and Sunday around the Lower Mainland. And it was so good because we got to hang out and then we got to build my business together. And that was great. And my mom was always like there cheering me on too. Like she'd help me put like all the labels on and like wick my jars.
They're your assembly line.
Yeah, like they were the first 2 team members of Kilig, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah. And they'll be there to the very end as well. Yeah,
they will. And like my mom is, like I said, she's like a little bit more reserved when you first meet her, but then I think I get like that really like fun-loving aspect of life from her because I really see her like go into her element sometimes where she just has so much fun and she has like the best laugh ever. So yeah, I think I'm like, well, my partner tells me I'm like a 50-50 mix of my parents.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, that is actually a great segue because I was going to ask what you were like as a child and teen.
Oh, yeah. So as a child, well, I'm an only child. So people have definitely told me I have like only child syndrome, which is okay. But I think as a child, I really relied on my parents. And when my mom was here, when she came to Canada and she met my dad and stuff, like one of the big things was, you know, her love for her family. And my dad suggested like, hey, let's bring your youngest brother out here and let's bring your mom out here. Like, let's, you know, share this with them. So they sponsored my uncle and my grandma here. My uncle's still here. My grandma just went back right before COVID hit. But I really relied on my uncle and my grandma as well growing up. Like they lived with me. I lived with my grandma up until about maybe 2018. And then my uncle I lived with until he got married, essentially. But they were like 2 great pillars in my life as well. Like my uncle was really fun. He'd like do fun uncle things, take me to McDonald's and stuff. And then my grandma was my main caretaker, I would say, because my parents worked. You know, my dad worked 2 jobs. My mom worked during the day. So my grandma would just be like that person that I was always going to. She'd take me to the park. She'd like take me to the corner store and get candy. And one thing my grandma used to tell everyone is Sean taught me English. Because when she came to Canada, she didn't really know too much English. It was more of, I guess, like broken English. You'd say she could communicate, but it wasn't the best. So while I was like learning to read, like we would read together, she was very religious. So she'd read the Bible and sometimes she'd be like, what does this word mean? And I'd be like in grade 4 explaining what essentially was going on in whatever she was reading. So
I love that intergenerational teaching. It doesn't have to go from, you know, older to younger.
Yeah.
It can go younger to older, and that's beautiful too.
Yeah, and I just have a lot of great memories with her, like being in the garden with her and her walking me to school every day in elementary school. And yeah, she was just really there for all of the big pivotal moments so far in my life.
Oh, I really resonate with that because in the first few years of my life, it was quite similar for me. My grandmother was a huge presence. I have four uncles, 4 titos.
Oh, wow.
And they were like my big brothers. Like when I look back at that time, I did a lot with them and, you know, they razzed me a lot. But to have that is really special beyond your parents. To have that network and those relationships.
Totally. Because like mom and dad are mom and dad, but sometimes it's nice to have like other family that you can be with. And yeah.
I remember you saying that growing up, you didn't really have a lot of Filipino friends. Most of them were white or Indian.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you had this really interesting cultural identity shift at some point in your life because your mom loves Miss Universe, the Miss Universe pageant.
Yes.
And you had a moment.
Yeah. So growing up, the majority of my friends were Caucasian or Indian. I grew up in Surrey. And even in high school, I thought like, oh, maybe I'll make some new Filipino friends. And I think there was only a couple of other Filipino kids there at the time. So I never really resonated with that Filipino side unless I was going to a Filipino party with my mom, which again, I didn't even really feel like I belonged because I can't speak Tagalog. So that's something that's like always kind of held me back a little bit. But my parents love going to Vegas, so we went one year. It was right before Christmas, I think, or right after Christmas. And my dad knows that my mom loves Miss Universe, like any kind of beauty pageant. So I was kind of like, oh, I'll go if mom wants to go. So he bought 2 tickets and we went, and it was the most amazing experience ever. It was at Planet Hollywood, and it was, I'd say, honestly, like at least 50% of the crowd was Filipino. And we were sitting there, and in the final, it was Miss Philippines and Miss USA. And all the Filipinos had their signs up. Everyone was so excited. And I really felt Filipino in that moment because I was like, oh my gosh, that person looks like me that's on that stage, like, which you don't always see as like a minority group. And I was just so excited. And then Miss USA won. They announced she won, and all the Filipinos were so upset about it. And I remember leaving and telling my mom for the first time, and I think it really meant a lot to her, I was like, I'm so proud to be Filipino. And to this day, she gets so excited when I talk about that with her. She's like, yeah, you're Filipino. I'm like, yeah, I love it.
And was that moment of pride because you could see yourself in an idol?
I think so. I think that had a lot to do with it because, you know, I was probably 18 or 19 at that time. And I'm trying to think back, and that's when social media even started becoming a thing. And a lot of influencers, they were not, you know, people of color or let alone Filipino. And you didn't really see a lot of actors or actresses that were Filipino or even identified as Filipino. So when I saw Miss Universe or Miss Philippines, sorry, at that time, I was just so excited. And then to see all of the support and how like loving the Filipino community is there and then, I was really taken aback, and I was really excited. And I was like, this is definitely like something I can get with.
Yeah, and it's amazing that it happened then for you too around that age, because I feel like even for me, being proud of being Filipino didn't happen until later in my life, probably like in my 30s. Yeah, so
it's funny because like now I have a lot of Filipino friends, and one of my really good friends who I share the studio with, man, she's definitely like, I was joking with her, like she's my Filipino rock. Like we have a lot of conversations about being Filipino and like how I'm half, and you know how I feel in the community and stuff, and she's been great to have around too.
Well, she is a force of energy.
Yeah. It's always a good time with me.
Yeah, exactly. I want to follow your career path. So you started off in fashion. Right?
So when I was young, I just always worked retail, fashion retail, and, you know, being at Aritzia or whatever it was at the time. And I really love fashion. I think it's so much fun. It's a way to be creative. It's also a way to work with people. And I moved to England, oh gosh, maybe like 5 years ago, and I lived there for a couple years, and I was working in luxury retail, which was a lot of fun. But something I didn't find in retail was stability. It was a lot of up and downs, and even though I love fashion and love working with clothes, there would be times where I was really stressed out, like more stressed out than I've ever been, and I didn't find it, you know, worthwhile in that sense. So my mom, being a typical Filipino, she was like, why don't you try healthcare? And I was like, oh, I don't really know if I want to do that. She's like, you get benefits, you know, you get a pension, you get paid vacation, all these things. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. So I went into the unit coordinator program at VCC, and it was 8 months long, and it was actually a lot of fun. I realized that it was something that I could do. I could still work with people. I could help people. And it became a job that I really loved. I worked at St. Paul's for a bit, and it was great. I made so many awesome connections and like have a lot of respect for anyone who can do any job in healthcare. It doesn't even matter if you're a janitor in the hospital. Like, you really work hard and you really have compassion for people.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. You see a lot there, and it just really opens your eyes to what's going on beyond your world. There's a lot of stories out there. There's a lot of different people. So I really loved that too.
You said you love talking to older people.
Oh, yeah. I love old people. Like, that was my last stint in healthcare, was working at a residential home. So I love old people. I think they're great. They all have a really interesting story to tell you.
What have they taught you? If you were going to say, this is a theme that I have heard throughout many conversations, what would you say?
I'm trying to think. I feel like the basis of what most of them stand for, or what they tell me because they know I'm a lot younger than them, is like, just enjoy life. Like, life goes by in the blink of an eye. It's crazy how fast life changes. And I see that in their health, but also hear it in their stories. So it's very much like, live in the present, be happy. Like, you want to go on that vacation, enjoy that adventure, because there's going to be one day where that's just not possible anymore for you. If you want to try something out, try it out, because when you're in their shoes, you might not have the opportunity to. You might not just be physically able to anymore, even though you're mentally there and want to do it. So, yeah, I basically learned, like, live for now and enjoy the years where you have that health.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, living in the moment, because you don't, and you could be old or young and not know what tomorrow brings. So
totally,
you might as well, which is very difficult for so many people to live in the present, right? So
yeah, I feel like anxiety is even a big thing nowadays. So everyone's so anxious about like the future, and mental health's a big thing. But I think if we could all just live in the present, I think everyone would be super happy, because there's a lot of great things happening in front of us. And even if it's like, you woke up and you got to eat your favorite breakfast, like, that's awesome, because not everyone gets to do that.
Exactly. And it's a very privileged place to say that you can. So if you can, you should.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really do agree with that a lot. And so you were in a really bad car accident.
Yes.
And then you ended up, this is when you came back from England, went back into healthcare.
Yeah.
And the car accident happened, and you're still going to active rehab, aren't you?
Yeah. So I go to active rehab once or twice a week now. I go to physio twice a week. My back is still in pretty poor condition. I've had quite a few, I guess you could call them procedures, done to my back even, to help me get better. And I'm definitely a lot better than I used to be, but I don't think I'll ever be back to the person I was before in the sense of my health. And I think that's why I care so much about enjoying life now, because that's something I didn't really do before, to be honest. I was so worried about everything else. I wasn't living in the now, and my health got bad really quick because of the car accident. So that's like another thing, like these old people, I think about what they used to tell me, and then I had this accident. I was like, oh my gosh, they're so right. Because there's a lot of activities that I used to do. I used to be super into sports and go snowboarding. I love horseback riding and stuff. And they're just things I haven't been able to do. And it's been, I think, about just over 3 years now since that all happened. And I definitely miss that person I used to be, but I'm still, working really hard to get back. Yeah.
And this is when you started making candles.
Yeah. So I was at home, and I honestly, just pretty depressed with how my life was going, in the sense of, again, not being that person I used to be. And I've always loved DIY. I've always loved doing arts and crafts, from the time I was really small. And I looked up how to make candles, because candles are one of my favorite things, even before I had my business. And I was like, okay, what can I do? How can I make my own candles? So I remember just spending $150 on all the products, and then being in my parents' kitchen and started making candles. And I was like, oh, this is a lot of fun and this is kind of relaxing. And I gave them to like a couple of friends and they're like, just try selling these. I think you could sell these.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, let's try. So I went on Instagram. I created, a business profile or whatever. And
we should probably tell people what your brand is called.
So my candle business is Kilig Candle Co.
Yes, and it has a special meaning too.
Yeah. So I named it Kilig Candle Co. because, again, I don't speak Tagalog fluently, but my mom taught me the word Kilig a very long time ago, and she always said it's like, oh, when you have a crush on somebody, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cute, or she's like, the butterflies in your tummy. And then I looked up the definition, and there is no direct English translation, but it was everything my mom told me, and I was like, this is so cute. I love this word. So I called it Kilig Candle Co. And yeah, it just, after I made the Instagram account, it kind of took off from there. I remember asking my friend who does photography, like, hey, can you just take a couple photos of my candles and let's see what happens? And it's crazy. Like, it's even kind of changed her career a little bit. Now she focuses on product photography because she's taken so many candle photos for me.
Oh, wow. Incredible.
Yeah. She went from like weddings to product photography, which
incredible.
Is pretty cool.
You can uplift others too through what you do.
Yeah, and we still work together, so it's fun.
Yeah. And your candles are made of soy. They've got zinc-free wicks and natural oils, so you definitely went that route.
Yeah, so something I researched when I was starting to make candles was, how eco-friendly and sustainable candles actually are. And I noticed, a lot of the bigger brands that sell candles in stores, they smell amazing. They work perfectly fine, but they are not made sustainably. They're made with toxic ingredients that are actually pretty harmful to some people, and like even your pets, and they'll leave soot on the walls. And I was like, I want nothing to do with that. So I did some research and, went the soy wax route, which is a lot more eco-friendly. It's vegan friendly too, which is nice because I also try to eat as vegan as possible. I'm not perfect, but I do have those days. But
you're mindful.
Yeah, I'm mindful about what I'm consuming and like what I'm making. And then all the wicks are lead and zinc free, which is great. And the fragrances are all toxic free. So it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And you were saying for every candle purchased, a meal is donated to a child in need in the Philippines. Attica?
Yeah. So Attica is the Canadian nonprofit I work with. They're based in Toronto, but they also have a team in the Philippines. So essentially what it is anytime you buy a product from me, I donate a meal to Attica, and they give the meal to a child. So they work in a lot of impoverished areas in the Philippines. And again, I chose them because of my mom's story. I thought it really resonated well with me. So yeah, they feed those kids, and it's an incentive for them to come to school. So what happens a lot of the time in the Philippines is, in these more impoverished areas, is kids are thinking to themselves, okay, am I going to go to school and get this education and be hungry all day? Or am I going to stay at home with my family, work with my family, and have enough, pesos to pay for a meal to put on the table for everybody? And that's a really big thing that still goes on. And, it's 2022, and it's, for us here in Canada, not a lot of people would think that's happening, but it is. So when they give the meal to the child, they give it in a breakfast option. So it incentivizes them coming to school, having that big plate of food, and then staying for the school day and learning. And I think they've had over 12 graduating classes now since starting that.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And that's really important because that food, like that breakfast meal, I'm assuming provides them the fuel to get through the day where they can retain information and they can focus.
Yeah, I know it's like a lot of rice and carbs and stuff, which it's so funny because here people are like, oh, it's too carby. But over there, it's like, yes, that's the fuel you need to really power through the day and like give you that brain power even. So it's like you're giving people this opportunity to better themselves and better their lives and better their families by just giving them breakfast, which is so simple.
And it's something that we don't even think about because it's on autopilot for us. Some of us don't even have breakfast.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, I don't eat a breakfast, I'll eat at 11.
Exactly. Or, here.
We have that choice.
Yeah, we have that choice, and people wake up and they're like, okay, I'm just going to go grab a smoothie down the street, spend $10 on a smoothie. And it's like, that's a lot of meals for some children in the Philippines, $10 when you think about it in that sense even. So it's really crazy, but I think it's so amazing that such a small change can help so many people.
Do you think you'll go to the Philippines and try to meet some of the kids?
Yes, I really, really want to. When things get, a little bit better with COVID, that's something I've talked to my family about is, doing a family trip and visiting our family. But I want to take like a few days and see like if I can, be the one feeding them, making the plates of food. I think that would be so cool.
Yeah, and I'm sure they would just love to meet you too.
Yeah.
As a someone who's been helping them and supporting them from afar.
Yeah, I feel like I just want to give them all a big hug. I feel like
hugs are good. Hugs are very,
very
very therapeutic and healing.
Yeah, like a hug and a meal. Why not?
Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
I wanted to go back to your candle making and the business of it. I have a friend that she started making candles. It's just a hobby.
Nice.
And so she's come and she's dropped off a few. And it was so interesting listening to her talk about the quality of the wax, how long it takes to harden, like all of these things that I didn't really think about.
It's like a big
the process is actually really incredible.
Yeah, it's like a big science experiment because every fragrance has a different fragrance load, and I could get really into it. But fragrance load essentially is how much fragrance you're going to put into that wax to make it smell like whatever you want it to smell. But there's like a million different fragrance loads, what heat you pour the wax at, what heat you even melt the wax at, how big the wicks are, how big the jar is. It's all science and it's all math, which shockingly I'm very, very bad at, but I kind of have like a rule of thumb now, which has helped me out. But yeah, it's really crazy how much time and effort it takes to make a candle. But at the same time, I think you could say that a lot about a lot of different art forms. Music takes so long to do, and, an actual painting could take months, days, a really long time. So in a way, candle making is kind of like an art form. Once you get the hang of it, though, you can get a little faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you have a natural nose for different kinds of smells and notes and what goes together? Or was that something that was more learned for you as you went along?
I think it's a bit of both. So I've always had like a really sensitive nose to different things, either the smells being good or bad. Very sensitive growing up. And I really love perfume. So my mom also really loves perfume. So I learned a lot of like smells from what she has. But essentially when I started the business, I was just like, I want to make 3 scents that I think would smell really good. And the one of them that I still have, it's the top seller. It's just lavender and eucalyptus. Because I feel like those are 2 amazing smells to have, especially in the evening.
It's calming and bright at the same time.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I love eucalyptus for just opening up my chest and my nose.
Yeah, it's so refreshing. And then the lavender just kind of, calms it all down. It's the perfect sleepy candle. So yeah.
I love candles too, and I always have. I'm amazed at the amount of candle brands there are out there and how they all manage to, how they survive. Do you think that there is a secret to the longevity of a candle business? Is it more the branding side of things? I mean, obviously the product itself, but with so many out there, how do you imagine people choose?
Honestly, I tell everyone, like there's so many people in the world and everyone has a different nose. And I think that's part of the reason why there's so many candle brands. For the longevity of it, I think it's a 50-50, to be honest. Half of it is the quality of your candle, and the other half is branding and, your message behind what you're making. Anyone can make a candle, I think. I think it's not hard if you want to just do it at home as a craft. But if you have a purpose behind it, you are putting like a sustainability factor behind it. I know that's really important to a lot of people today. Your care, your message, your mission, all of that is so important to keeping your business thriving. And something that I've learned from even other local candle companies is, the person behind it really matters too. Because there are so many awesome local candle makers out there, and I've met quite a few of them. And they're all great people. Like, I have nothing bad to say. They are all so kind, so caring, so welcoming. It's a great community to be a part of.
I'm just, this is not related to this, but something else that you said about the nose. It matters about your nose. I was just thinking about, because I told you I've always really loved candles. And there was a point in my life where I was always buying Voluspa.
Oh, yeah.
And I recently went to the store where I used to buy them, and I smelled it, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I really like it anymore.
Yeah.
And I would gravitate to other ones. So I suppose throughout your life too, your biochemistry of your nose could probably change too, just depending where you're at.
Yeah, I've had that conversation before, and I described it as this is, when you're in high school, and as a female, at least I've definitely felt this. You're in gym class and you get that Calgon spray that you used to buy from Zellers, and it smells like cupcakes, and you spray it all over you, and you're like, oh, this smells so good. And if I smelt that now, I think I'd be sick. Mm-hmm. So I think your nose definitely changes over time too. Mm-hmm. Something I hear from a lot of customers is like, rose is such an old lady smell. And I was like, but I don't think it is. So maybe that's something you like when you're older, but I think people's noses change too.
Yeah, I guess, of course. I mean, if you think of your entire life, we're always evolving.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I also remember you saying that it was hard at first as a fledgling brand to get spots at pop-ups and markets if you didn't have a large following. And so you ended up just making your own way.
Yeah. So something I noticed when I was applying for markets was there was a question in there, and it was always like, how many followers do you have? Or what's your Instagram? Because they're going to look and see the amount of followers you have. And I don't think all markets are like this, but I do think a lot of them are. And I was just kind of like, I don't really have a lot of followers. I have like 100 followers on here. And I went to one pop-up that was awesome. They didn't care about my following. I had such a great experience. And I was like, you know what? I want to do this, and I want to have it for anyone who has any amount of followers. Like, I don't really care about that. Like, if you have a good product, there's something to say for that in itself. And I don't think that social media needs to rule that for you. I don't think it needs to be the end all of your business, because there are a lot of amazing local businesses that have maybe like under 300 followers, but their product is incredible. And I've met them all through pop-ups. So I decided to create the Girl Gang pop-up, which it's supposed to be if you're female or female identifying and own a business, that you can come and showcase your product and sell it. So we've done, I think, about 5 now, and I started that during the pandemic, and it has been so much fun. We're actually doing another one in April, but it's going to be great. Yeah.
No, I think it's great. From listening to you and hearing you talk, it seems like community is very essential to you.
Yeah, I would be nothing without the Vancouver community, but also the small business community. I think everyone is just so great and supportive, and I think we've all been in each other's shoes. So it doesn't matter how many, again, followers you have or like what your clientele is like, is we've all started in the exact same place. So if you can, lend a helping hand, why not? And that's kind of how I feel. It's like, yeah, I'm super busy, but, me spending this time doing a pop-up and, inviting you to come and showcase your business is really easy for me in the scheme of it. It's just like, let's send you a message, let's give you this opportunity, and that's it, really.
Again, going back to uplifting one another and elevating, you can do it all together.
Yeah.
I've experienced that too, and it's super important to not just your business, but to your whole being.
Yeah.
To have that connection.
And I think something that's really important in especially the small business community is to remember community over competition. Because at the end of the day, these are the people that you can lean on for support in hard times, or if you have a question and stuff. Like, again, we're all in the same boat, so why not just be there for each other? And same in any kind of relationship. Why not just like give that helping hand if you have a free moment?
Absolutely. Yeah, it makes me think of what you were saying about Man and how she's your Filipino rock, but I know that you've also said that she's been a really great mentor to you too.
Yeah.
What has she really taught you?
With her, she's one of the most hardworking humans I have ever met. I actually met her when we worked at Aritzia together. maybe like 10 years ago. And I was like 18. I was a teenager. And man, she's 10 years older than me. But that's a whole nother story because she definitely doesn't look like it. But ever since I met her, even at Aritzia, just the hustle, the drive, the not giving up has always been there. And, you know, every day I see her, and we always even call each other in the morning, and it's really funny. We kind of sing to each other every morning. And we're like, after we sing, we go, okay, what's your plan for the day? And then we keep each other on track. We bounce business ideas off each other. And something that's great about our building now, because she has all upstairs and I have all of downstairs, is we're creating community-focused events and things that we resonate with as women. So it's just a constant going back and forth and supporting each other in all aspects of life now. So she's definitely like a lifelong friend, I think. She's not just, you know, that business buddy that you get along with.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
friend for life. Friend for life.
Yeah.
So what's next for your brand? I know that you were saying you just got picked up by an agency that will help you retail Canada-wide. So congratulations.
Thank you.
That is
I'm really
super
excited.
awesome.
Yeah. It's probably, I think, the biggest thing that's happened for my business. And when I got reached out about it, I was just like, oh my gosh, it's happening. Because this is something I wanted to do last year. I noticed that there was these agencies, and I was just like, oh, this would be a great way to grow. And I kept thinking about it. And then they reached out, I think it was just over a month ago. And they were like, hey, can we represent you? Like, we can help you grow your business. And that was just a pivotal moment for me. I was so excited. So yes, we've been picked up by an agency that's going to help distribute everything Canada-wide and just, you know, kind of be there with the hookup in the sense of new retailers and stuff, which will be great. But for Kilig, I think we're turning more into a self-care brand, which is something I'm very here for because I'm big on self-care. We launched some perfumes.
Which I have one, and I love it. I'm actually wearing it right now, Pillow
really?
Talk.
Oh,
yeah.
Yay.
Love it. I actually get a ton of compliments on it.
Oh, that makes me so happy. It's definitely my favorite smell. And the one smell that everyone was like, we want to smell like this. So I had to make it into a perfume.
Yeah.
We have like a soap and a lotion, but I guess I can tell you, we're going to do a bit of a facelift for Kilig as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll see that in fall. It's still going to be Kilig Candle Co. It's just going to be the grown-up version of Kilig, I would say.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very exciting. I can't wait to see that. Okay, so fall 2022.
Yes.
Watch out for some new branding.
Yes, and Mayanne's actually helping me
Oh,
with
is
that.
she?
Yeah. Because she does
love
graphic
that.
design. Yeah, she went to Emily Carr, and she's done branding for my friend's business, Kid Sister. And it's so incredible. It just really speaks to Maxine, the owner. And I was like, this is great that you can translate that person and their personality into what they want their business to be. And I was just like, hey, man, I need you. Mm-hmm, please help me.
Super exciting.
Yeah.
Well, just a couple more questions for you. So second to last question. Actually, third to last, because I just thought of this halfway through the interview. You were talking about your grandmother and your uncle. Mm-hmm. And I know that your parents are really important to you. Your mom's it seems very, very important to you. But I love this, what you were telling me about your grandmother and your uncle. What would you say to them? Like, what would you say to them right now about what you appreciate about that time in your life?
Oh, my. I'd say to my uncle, I'd say to him, thanks for letting me bother you, because at the time he was like in his 20s and I'm just this little kid, and he'd let me play video games with him and, you know, take me out and stuff. So thank you for including me and giving me something to look forward to in the day, even if it was just like us playing karate video games or, you know, going to McDonald's and getting some chicken nuggets, or letting me come on a drive with you and playing Z95-3, because that's what we would do. And then to my grandma, just thanks for taking care of me so well and nurturing me in ways I didn't even realize when I was younger. Because I think she really did that. She really loved and cared for me and wanted the best for me. And even when I didn't realize it, she was there as support. Yeah.
So beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So my second to last question, as we said before, Kilig means the butterflies in your tummy and this sense of joy. Do you still feel that Kilig every day, and how do you maintain it in your own life?
Well, I feel it in a lot of ways. So first in the romance way, I definitely feel it with my partner. He's so amazing, and he's like another person who really supports me in everything I do. Like either that, be doing my business or like, getting motivated to go to the gym. Like he's there every step of the way. So I definitely feel that excitement. Like even when I see him, I'm like, oh, I love you so much. You're just like my person forever. And I think another way you could feel Kilig is just excitement in general, just being really happy about something. And I can genuinely say that I feel that every day I'm in my studio. And owning a business isn't, peachy all the time. And there's always going to be a hard moment to deal with. But I'm just so happy that I get to make candles, which sounds hilarious, like you're just making candles, but I love it, and I get to connect with people every day, and I'm just so excited about that. And I feel Kilig about the future even, because I just see so much great things happening, like with my business, with like my personal life, even my health I feel is getting better. So I always feel like that.
Mm-hmm. And also Pepe, people can't see him, but it's her Pomeranian who is in her arms and just wavering between sleep and awake, and it's very adorable.
Yeah, he's my little buddy. If people come by the studio, they usually meet him. He's the greeter. Yeah, depending if you have a dog, he might bark. But yeah, I feel Kilig with Pepe too. He makes me so happy. I always say to my partner that I am so lucky to have him. I never knew like I could feel this kind of joy with a pet before. So yeah, he's with me all the time. I love it.
He's yours. He's your little man.
Yeah, he is.
And my final question is the question that I ask everybody. With what you do, what is it that you want to leave behind in the world?
There's a lot of things. That's a big question. I would say, I hope that the candles or whatever product you get from me, or even the experience of Kilig on, the web, is that you get a feeling of happiness, and if you have the product, some kind of self-care. I think everybody deserves self-care. I don't care what you look like, where you came from, what you do, even if it's 5 minutes of like that alone time where you can just close your eyes and, enjoy the moment. Like, I just hope that you feel relaxed and that you've nourished yourself in some way. And with the school feeding program, I just hope that these meals that I'm, donating really help to change somebody's life. And I know they have already, and I'm happy that I'm able to do something so small but so helpful for other people.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time and for sharing your story and your amazing energy.
Oh, thank you.
And I can't wait to have more conversations with you.
Yes, it was so great being here. Thanks for inviting me. I'm so happy.
Thanks so much, Sean.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed that last conversation, be sure to check out more episodes with Craft on Spotify and guest photo galleries on the website at wearethecraft.com. Thanks again for listening.